Hey everybody, Mark here from John 1911, and finally going to knock out that Q&A session that we've been talking about for over a week. I had some technical issues, and so I don't know if you guys can see the background or not. I'll see if I can't get it to the exposure with the camera to change. So there's a nice dredger in the background. So we'll go ahead and try to knock these out pretty quick. Oh, and before we get started, let me see if I can go through some of the some of you guys were shit talking some of the shirt that I was wearing, asking for when I was asking for questions. So what was it? Danny asks, is that a cheap knockoff Conor McGregor FU shirt, probably bought in Tijuana? And that Ed says that shirt would make a High Point look good. Thought that was pretty awesome. Let's see here. Wes, is that a Digicam snakeskin shirt? Are you sure you don't live in Miami? Just busting your balls. That is a nice shirt. All right. Digicam snakeskin. Yeah. Thought that was pretty good. So let's see. What a few of the other good ones here. Let's see. Oh yeah, someone's ragging on my clothes and said I had a bag phone or something too. So let me go through these. We'll go ahead and blast through them real quick. By the time this gets published, I will probably be back. I'm having some major issues with the internet and getting video to go off a satellite. So just all kinds of problems. So, what's the worst gun? First question: what's the worst gun you have ever owned? Probably a Lorson pistol. Absolute worst gun I've ever owned. Right now, probably the worst gun that I own currently would be a gun that I consider broken. It would be a Martini Henry gun that's been converted into 4570. I actually don't think it's safe to fire, so that has to go in free, or they have to check it. Freeze and either gonna have to check it to make sure it's safe. And if the machining works too much, we're going to have to farm it out to somebody with a full machine shop to deal with it. Do you have any info on the CMP 1911s? I do not. I expect them to be expensive as hell, just like everybody else. What do you think of 10 millimeter? Love 10 millimeter. It's a great round. I think 10 millimeter personally really shines in the Glock 20, especially if you're going someplace in the mountains where you have to deal with larger four-legged creatures. I think the 10 millimeter, especially in the Glock 20, because the Glock, I can't prove it, but it seems like the Glock 20 handles the beatings that the 10 millimeter round, the Glock frame can handle that really well. As I seem to recall, not 100% sure, but I seem to recall there were some Alaskan police officers. I don't know if they were state troopers or municipalities. They were carrying Glock 10 millimeters as their duty weapons for that reason. So something a little bit up to handle larger animals as opposed to just also, urban situations. 1911 extractors, external or internal? I think external extractors are probably on balance better, especially for the average consumer. Just the external extractor technology generally seems to work really well. Almost every handgun you see today, a semi-automatic, is external extractor. However, if you are a self-rescue kind of guy and you are not afraid to tune an extractor, I prefer on a 1911 an internal extractor, because I have no qualms of pulling an extractor out, filing on it, rounding it, tensioning it, and it's not, a lot of these guys will have you thinking that extractor tuning is like freaking nuclear fusion or something, and it's not that hard. So if you just have a little basic mechanical aptitude and internal extractor, you can basically keep a 1911 running forever. So, and there you go. What lube do you recommend? Slip 2000. Hands down, nothing better. What's going on with the range purchase? We've had some roadblocks with that, some issues. We've looked at some properties. It's as right now, there's really nothing in the pipeline. We've had, we may go into more of it later, but right now we're dead in the water. We don't have anything even lined up. So What do you think of the Mark 17 SIG P320? Do you think the Mark 17 SIG P320 was a mistake? Did you hear about the drop safe issue? I did hear about the drop safe issue. I guess Dallas PD, I'm traveling, but I'd seen this on the internet. I guess Dallas PD has issued a recall on their 320s. I guess they're not passing drop safe tests, so that could be an issue. You know, I think time will tell on the 320. There's a couple schools of thought here on a 320 and some issues you have to keep in mind. First thing is, whenever you're talking about a service weapon for the U.S. military, nobody's ever going to be happy. And so don't fall into the trap of just because there's people that are unhappy that there's really something wrong. I think we're going to have to see how this bears out over time. Also with the 320, as with the Glock and any other, I mean, look at the 1911. The Colt 1911, you know what, the 1903 and turned into the 19, you know, whatever, the 19 to whatever, and then there, you know, 1911 turned into 1911 A1. I mean, there's probably going to be a 320 A1 or a 320 A2, just because the nature of the beast. So, you know, I think long term, if the 320 doesn't work out, we'll probably know in a couple years if it doesn't work. However, the same look. I know how gun people are, and I know how the media is, and I know how the internet is. The same people that are bitching about SIG getting a 320 contract or the Mark 17 contract would be the same people that would be bitching if Glock had won the contract, saying that the Army is hidebound and didn't give the SIG, the more modern gun, a chance, or didn't test it, or the fix was in, and all this other crap, because they all just want to drive traffic and just, you know, get you all riled up. It's all horseshit. I mean, you know, a lot of these guys sit around circle jerking each other. You know, if you want a 320, buy it, run it. If it falls apart, let us know. You know, the rest of it's just horseshit. So just keep that in mind. And I'm not even a big SIG fanboy, and I predicted the Glock was going to get the goddamn contract. So there, I'm not an apologist for SIG by any stretch of the imagination. It'll be fine. It's a pistol, not a rocket to the moon. All right, let's see here. I kind of lost my place. Are shotguns still good for home defense? 100%. As a matter of fact, my main self-defense shotgun where I'm sleeping is self-defense weapon is a shotgun. It's a 590. No reason to change that. If you got it, you're comfortable with it, and you're familiar with it, no reason to change. Do you think a 223 trainer of your sniper rifle was a good investment? Oh yeah. Oh hell yeah. I mean, actually, a lot of people need to keep in mind that the 320 is, the 223 round is a long range round. You can shoot probably farther than most people think with a 223. But what I like the 223 as far as a copy of your big gun or your main gun, precision rifle, is it's cheap to shoot. Position shooting is huge. Not just shooting groups and not just shooting, getting your dope and going out and doing stuff, but the ability to actually shoot strong hand, weak side, kneeling, crouched, over barricades. You can practice a lot of that with the 223. I love the 223. Oh, we have a tugboat coming up to check out the dredger. So it probably see a tugboat here coming up behind me here in a minute. So yeah, 223 copy of your main gun. Hell yeah, all the way. If you can swing it, do it. I mean, if you have a switch caliber system, I think a 308/223 is more practical than, say, 308 and something else. Or if you're a 6.5 223, or even a 300 Win Mag in 223, just something to consider. It's easy to pick the big gun, but don't dismiss the little gun, the little caliber, because you can get a lot out of that. Let's see here. Looking at old photos, did you own an FN SPRa3g? Do you still shoot it? Do you like it? Yes, I did have an FN SPRa3g. I actually ran it for 4 years. For those of you that are familiar, it's a bolt action 308 rifle, and then Macmillan is it an I guess it's an A3 stock. I guess it's green. It's one of the guns that was on the FBI's approved sniper list. A hell of a nice gun, heavy gun. I'll be honest with you, I could never get that gun to shoot. And it came with a hell of a test target from the factory. David Voss had shot the group. I mean, I believe it shot that group, but it ended up going down the road because I could never get it to where I wanted it to be. And I chased performance out of that gun for 4 years before I finally gave up on it. So something to consider. I mean, you'd have to take a while to do that. Is the SP1 project also dead? Reference to the Glock project being dead? No, the SP1 project is not dead. As a matter of fact, I have a SP1 lower waiting for me back in the States. Carry knife, folder versus fixed. What do you carry? I believe in fixed. I'm not a folder guy. I carry a K-bar law enforcement knife. It's a little short knife. They're inexpensive. If you need to get rid of it, you know, toss it. If you take it somewhere and it goes too, you know, you decide you need to get rid of it for whatever reason, it's not like getting rid of a random knife. I'm not generally a big knife person. I think the knife guys they're a little bit too fetishy for me. I live in the real world, so obviously you have to have a knife, but I don't live in the fantasy of the fetishy knife universe. I have one little knife. It's what I use. I've actually been in a knife fight. Nothing to talk about, but it's more than most people. So, you know, whatever. Will you get a VP9 SK? Probably not. I don't like pocket rockets, even though I like the HK VP9. The SK is the little itty bitty pocket version of that gun. I don't like pocket rockets, and you know, the VP9, it's a little short on ammo. I think that hurts that gun, and you know, but you can live with 15+1. But the SK, what is that? A 10-round gun? You know, or maybe I don't know. Get it to maybe 12 with, you know, it's like, you know, I don't know, like is about the size of a Glock 19. It just, I don't know. I mean, if I got one for free, I would certainly play with it. I'm not a pocket pistol person. I'm not down on the SK. I don't really much go for Glock 26s, 27s, you know, any of those pocket guns. I'm not a pocket gun guy. I'm a big guy and carry big guns. So, aftermarket sights for Glock HK. I don't have a brand, but I do prefer ledge sights. Anything with a ledge on it, so you can cock it on your belt or on the table or on a wall, or as Freeze calls them, dick cocking sights. Anything with a dick cocking sight is a way to go. What do you think of red dot sights on pistols? Not personally my bag. I can tell you from being around a lot of people that have run those. I mean, I'm very familiar with them. I've been around them I've been around red dot sighted guns. See, 2017, at least 15 years. The biggest transition people have with the red dot sight pistols is that they don't understand that when you have an iron sight gun, you still got to bring it up and push out that sight plane in front of your eye. Well, that doesn't change with a red dot. You still have to bring it up and push it out, because if you just throw it up, it floats, and then you don't have 2 points of reference. You don't have 2 points of reference to bring it in, and you can't find your dot. So you still have to present it just like you would iron sights. So it's not necessarily faster for some people, but the initial transition is somebody going from iron sights to red dot is they can't find the dot, and that's why, because they think they can just throw it up straight up as opposed to pushing it out. So keep that in mind. Your mileage may vary. Why don't you like Glock? I love Glock, especially Glock 17. I just have big hands, so the Glock 19 isn't really my size of a gun. I prefer a full-size service pistol. Glock 17 is one of my favorite handguns. Glock 21, the 45 caliber full-size Glock, I think that's probably, in my opinion, the best 45 handgun on the market. I know there's some people that may disagree with that. Some people say the Glock 21 is the least reliable of the Glocks, but if I had this, somebody said, hey man, gotta run 45, that's what we gotta run, boom. I wouldn't run a 1911, I'd run a Glock 21. I mean, in a heartbeat. FN 7, yay or nay? As a reference gun in a collection, yeah, sure, great gun, interesting gun, and it's a unique gun. Would I recommend it for somebody? You know, is like if they were new to firearms and, you know, they said, hey, I got this gun, it would be a good carry gun. No. It's a 22 Magnum. Pocket snubby, 38 or 357? 38. Sorry, 357 and a stub nose is just wasting powder and blast. Let's see here. Hold on. Let's see here. Do you have any experience with the Gadget? I do not. I'm familiar with the Gadget. If those of you don't know, the Gadget is a device that normally goes on the back of a Glock. So when you go to holster, you can use your thumb. If you're using to holster and you push the rear plate on your the striker plate, or they call it on the back of your Glock. The Gadget, it's spring loaded, and what it does is it blocks the it does something with the firing pin and blocks it to keep it from firing. You know, I think if the Gadget turns out to be reliable and durable under heavy use and long term in different environments, I think you could see the Gadget as a concept be licensed across many service pistols. It's possible in 15 years or 10 years or 20 years, every striker fired handgun ever made will have a Gadget type format of something on it. So I think it's really interesting. You like the VP9? Does that mean you like the P30, the HK P30? No, I do not. I do not like double action, single action handguns. I might be able to grant a waiver to that for the LEM triggers, but I don't have a lot of time on it. I have funds for a bolt gun, but I found a Tikka at nearly the same price as a Remington. Which should I get? Tikka all the way. Tikka all the way. If you can swing, well, I'm assuming this is a used Tikka. I'm not up on the Tikka Remington prices, but I mean, if this is new and you're looking at a Remington versus a Tikka, oh dude, it's not even, I mean, I'd pay more for the Tikka than a Remington. I'm not a Remington 700 guy anyway, so. Let's see here. With all the firings and shakeups in by Trump in DC, will this be the beginning of the end of the deep state against him now that a general is watching the leaks? No, it's not near over. It's not near over. I actually predicted that the Priebus was going to be fired before I left, but I wasn't able to really make the prediction publicly, so it doesn't count. So yeah, no, it's not over. How do I convince someone who doesn't care about training that a permit isn't enough? And do you have any suggestions for training in home instead of signing up for a high dollar class? The first part of the question, you can't convince anybody of that. Everybody's on their own journey when it comes to firearms. So, everybody started, unless you grew up, I don't know, at the foot of somebody at like some gun school, I mean, most of you probably were like, I got a gun, I'm good, it'll solve all my problems. And you just have to grow as a person and, just try to be supportive as much as you can. Everybody's going, at what point, does a guy come up to me, for example, and show me his big Mark 23 H&K offensive pistol that holds 8 rounds, the thing weighs 4 pounds or something, and he's like, here's my carry gun, or here's my handgun, it's going to be great. Do I just go, yeah, that's an interesting gun, or do I shit all over that guy? I think you probably get a little farther, especially with your friends, if you're more supportive as opposed to shitting in their Wheaties all the time. Just everybody goes on a journey. You buy stuff, you like it at first, over time or experience, your opinion changes. You can't force it. You can't force that kind of stuff. Do I have any suggestions for training at home instead of signing up for a high dollar class? Yeah, that would be too much for me to probably articulate here. We've thought about publishing some drills. It's not that it's anything that isn't commonly available. I mean, there's no magic drill or whatever, but there's some basic drills that are more reflective of of skills that you would need. I'd say the biggest thing, if you are a person who owns a firearm and you have had no training, I would say the biggest thing you can do to better yourself would be to practice drawing from holster, because a lot of times, if you're these civilians or these private, private individuals at these public ranges, for insurance reasons, they say they don't want you to draw from a holster because they don't want people to shoot themselves in the foot or shoot other people. If you can work drawing from a holster, and you're probably going to end up screwing it up, and you're going to be fly casting or shoveling or whatever, but drawing from a holster, chances are, if you need a gun, you need to draw from a holster. And you'd be surprised at how many people that own firearms, they can't, when it's the holster, it's the working a holster that they freak out over. So something to consider. Let's see here. Would it be better to carry a bunch of extra mags, a backup gun, or neither if you felt like you were in a more risky area still carrying concealed? So let me say this again. Would it be better to carry a bunch of extra mags, a backup gun, or neither if you felt like you were in a more risky area still carrying concealed? The premise of the question is probably the real problem here. The truth is, if I'm anticipating having an issue, I bring a rifle. So just keep that in mind. I don't go anywhere anticipating having to need a handgun. And if you are in a situation where you really think there's a chance you're really going to need your handgun, you should probably be bringing a rifle and maybe not even going there. So just something to consider. As far as the whole backup gun thing, that's an individual person's choice. I think people that carry concealed are not as well served by backup guns, say as like uniformed law enforcement officers are, who can possibly be disarmed because everyone knows they have a gun. I think you're better off taking the effort and money that goes into a backup gun and maybe just carrying one good gun or a bigger gun or a better gun than maybe a backup gun. But again, that would be situation and individual specific, that is probably beyond the scope of this. But for me personally, I don't carry backup guns. I carry a real gun. So there you go. What do you think of the 300 Blackout AR as an all-around versatility utility firearm? I live in Maine, so 400 yards is a very long open shot here. My regulars know that I'm not the biggest fan of 300 Blackout, primarily because of logistics and cost. And I guess some of the argument that people make about that is that it is changing. And I guess I can't really deny that, but until 300 Blackout becomes a true service round, where it becomes a round that I have to deal with all the time, I'm not really interested in shooting it. Also, I question a lot of people that have 300 Blackout that if they're not shooting it suppressed. So, whatever with that. But what I like about this question is the guy at least has some reality based in this. The second part, I live in Maine, so 400 yards is a very long open shot here. I've known some people who are very good shooters trying to shoot 300 Blackout at 400 yards, and they were surprised at what kind of how the dope that was needed for some of that. If I'd rather if a gun floats your boat and it gets you shooting and you're actually doing stuff with it, and you're not motivated to shoot a 5.56, but you'll shoot a 300 Blackout, then hey, rock on. But see, like for example, for me, like a 5.56 gun, all of these M4s, SCARs, ARXs, all of these quote assault rifles, they're all 300-yard guns. And I know that we shoot them for how I shoot them farther, but for me personally, from a self-defense standpoint, if I'm farther than 300 yards away from somebody, I either have enough distance to be able to break contact, or I'm gonna have a hard time justifying taking that shot. So, keep that in mind. But living in Maine, I don't know, is 300 Blackout enough to deal with a bear? I don't know. I haven't really looked at the ballistics of it that much. So maybe you'd be better served by a bigger caliber all around? What's you more likely to have an issue with someone breaking your house or a bear breaking in your garage? I don't know. I don't know. If you can make it work, sure, why not? What do you think of the Ruger ARX ammo? Also, what is your favorite 9mm defensive ammo and why? I have no experience with Ruger ARX ammo. I think professionally it's a good idea. I think everybody that wants to make some money, SIG is making their own ammo, Ruger's making their own ammo. I think everybody should start making their own ammo. I'm kind of old school when it comes to hollow point self-defense ammo. I'm a Federal Hydroshot guy, and I realized that you know, a lot of the stuff that's kind of dated ammo, but that's what I've used for a long time. And I think there's stuff that works better. I also realized that the truth is none of these hollow point self-defense ammos that for handguns, while they may be better on paper, that they're all quality ammo and they're all going to get the job done within reason. They're all handguns. Handguns put holes into people. You know, they're not man stoppers. So, you know, I mean, if I shoot Federal Hydroshock, but I'll probably convert to something else in the future. If I was out somewhere and for some reason shot up my ammo and, I don't know, Spear Gold Dot was the only thing on the shelf, I wouldn't care. Psh, that's fine. I wouldn't even think twice about it. And, you know, there's probably 10 different ammo brands like that I just wouldn't even matter to me. So, all the same. I'm getting a VP9 LE soon. Any advice? Any advice would be appreciated. VP9 LE I think is the one to go. I think it's a smart choice. It is more expensive. You get the extra magazine, and you also get the ledge sights, the ledge wedge dick cocking sights. I recommended the LE version of the VP9 has that. I believe that is a solid 100% upgrade to that gun. So personally, the only thing I ever did to my VP9 LEs, stippled them. Had a buddy of mine stipple them, and you're good to go. I think that's probably in my opinion, one of the best out of the box handguns on the market right now. And some people would take issue with that, especially with the VP9 and some of the other videos that are out there on it. I'm not going to argue the point. I just would say, you buy a Glock 17 and you still got to put $100 worth of sights on it because they're plastic. And you can make the argument, the LE guns or the Blue Label guns. Now, if you're having this conversation, you're probably not LE anyway. Most of these guns are sold with crappy sights, so they have to come off anyway. So, I mean, just out of the box, configured, I think the HK VP9 LE is a solid choice. See, how long before Trump fires Mueller and his band of backstabbing warriors? I think Trump has basically put the word out that if there's any leaks that come out of the Mueller's office, if Mueller's office turns into a big leak fest, he's going to fire him. He's not going to shut the investigation down, but he's going to fire Mueller, and then he's going to bring in somebody that's maybe more objective and not use this as a vehicle to whack Trump and go off into all these tangents. I think they know that that's what Trump's going to do, and I think they would be wise to not leak. I think it would serve the opponents of Trump, it would serve their political interests to keep the investigation going and keep Mueller in office. But I also know that the Washington, D.C. type of people cannot help themselves because information is power, and you can leverage that with the media, and I don't think they could keep from leaking if they wanted to. And so I think it's highly likely that there's going to be a huge crisis when stuff's leaking out of the Mueller investigation and Trump just goes, screw this, you're all out of here. So whatever. Truck gun question. I think this is going to be the last one. What factors do you consider for the ideal truck gun? Cost, caliber, weight. Is your PTR 91 what you consider ideal, or is it like your SCAR 16 where you use it because it is what you have? That's an excellent question. For those of you who don't know, I have a PTR 91. It's a 308 G3 format of rifle that I use as a truck gun. Couple of reasons why I did it. It's a PTR GI format, so it's basically the copy of the PTR original G3 HK91 gun, just with a pick rail on it. They are a heavy gun. The ergonomics to manual of arms, the manual of arms on them is not that good. Reloading them kind of sucks. They don't kick the greatest. I'm a larger guy. It's not that big of a deal. But to keep in mind with the PTR was it was a balance between cost, weight, and reliability that made sense as a truck gun, because I felt that a G3 HK91 PTR format gun could sit in my truck in 30 below weather, 105 degree weather, and if it was bone dry or frozen solid, it would run. You know, it's not a gun that's going to be carried, you know, for 12 miles. It's not a gun that's going to be shot a lot. The 308 made sense because chances are in a truck gun, since I don't have to carry it, in a truck gun, I'm more likely to either need it for animal deprivation or barrier vehicle penetration. There's going to be more reasons if I need a rifle that I don't have to worry about carrying it. The 308 and the PTR made a lot of sense. Now, you know, so that's where we're at with the PTR. Is it the best gun? No. I mean, if I was, you know, probably had my druthers, I'd probably use a SPRa 17. I could even use, I've actually used the SPRa 16 that I do have. I don't own a SPRa 17. I have used my SPRa 16 as a truck gun. As I rotate the PTR back into the armory for if it needs, you know, service or whatever, the SPRa just ends up in the truck. You know, I would still probably personally favor a 308 caliber rifle as a truck gun. If I was, for example, if I was going to use a truck gun, you know, like as a regular bolt action rifle, I'd probably choose a caliber that's got, like, I wouldn't carry a 223 caliber bolt gun as a truck gun. I'd want to carry something larger. I'm not going to say 30 caliber because that muddies the waters, but like something with some power. Obviously 300 Win Mag, 6.5 284, something that, you know, if I need to shoot a large animal or possibly some kind of barrier issue, it would, you know, be more applicable. You know, truck gun's a tool, not really a weapon. Something to consider. So it's PTR worked, the price was good, and it all made sense. So, oh, I think my my barge, hold on, let's see if I can lean away here. My tugboat's going away. So, all right, that wraps up the Q&A of the I guess of this Armory Chat Q&A. I'll try to get this up when you see this. I'll probably be, you know, at 30,000 feet and get this up in an airplane. So, you know, if I don't respond to questions or comments right away, it's either because I'm in the air or I'm sleeping. So if you want to leave comments on John1911 or on Facebook, I'll get to them as soon as I can. Everybody, thank you for your time. Remember, it's all about shooting guns and having fun. Everybody, have a good day.